Well, welcome. I'm going to introduce you here to the Aeolian Push Up Pianola. This instrument is a unique instrument. They're quite rare. They're very closely related to the player piano, as you might guess by the picture on the screen. But they are not a player piano. They are a piano player. And these instruments came out somewhat in advance of the player piano as we know it today, or at least as we knew it 50 years ago with piano rolls. These instruments came out as add-ons to existing pianos, and they could be pushed up to the piano, as you could see here, and they play the notes with fingers that stick out. The device sits like a cabinet in front of any piano. It gets adjusted to the height of the piano and then gets pushed forward. The fingers slide over the keys. And in the case of Aeolian, there were several manufacturers, but Aeolian, they work by, there's a metal plate here, it comes up and abuts a bracket that's just screwed to the bottom of the key bed. This one happens to be plywood. The original ones, I think, were metal, and that flips in and out. These instruments, by nature, need to actually be played. They do not play themselves. It's the operator who actually is the musician in this case. Through pedaling, because these are worked by a vacuum, the operator controls the dynamics, controls the loudness and softness, controls accenting, phrasing, of course tempo, and sustain of the keys. That's accomplished by a lever here which connects with linkage, simple linkage to the pedal below. This lever on this instrument controls volume. Some later instruments had a more sophisticated ability to control the dynamics through volume. And then a simple lever that controls the tempo. And this operates the spool, whether it's in forward or rewind. You push this instrument up, put the roll of music in, and you're there to play. But unlike modern electronic instruments, this isn't a simple turn the switch and let it go. This is the user needs to put his own input into it and becomes a musician in playing this instrument. You need to get the fullest out of this instrument, you have to act with it and interact with it as if you are, because you are, the musician. Very similar to a conductor of an orchestra creating music by controlling the actions of the orchestra through dynamics, loudness, softness, tempo, phrasing, and so on. You have very similar abilities with this instrument by operating those controls and levers and using the mechanical ability of the instrument to actually create the notes, but your ability to create the music. So I call this the conductor's baton for the piano. The way it works is really quite simple, although quite complex when you think about it. It works on a vacuum. When you push the pedals below, it creates a suction, which causes air to be drawn out of the valving and the system inside. When these holes in the paper pass through or pass over the holes in the tracker bar, the suction is broken and causes the air pressure in the atmosphere to push down on a group of small bellows which operate the fingers behind. I can show you on an instrument that I have here disassembled that I'm going to restore. This is what's inside. You have the spool box, tracker bar, the take-up spool, the tempo lever. This is controlled by what's called an air motor or a suction motor. This again works by a vacuum. The air is sucked out of these bellows, and when the valving is operated properly, the air pressure interacts on the bellows to collapse them, thereby causing the spinning motion. What's below it is called a stack. It's called a stack because it amounts to a series of basically boards which have the valving necessary to make the instrument operate, and it's all stacked together and screwed and bolted and glued, and inside is all of them, basically a lot of valving in order to make the system work. This particular one, these little tubes that you see here, actually uses an external form of porting so that the vacuum from one chamber can get into the next through connection of hoses. I have the hoses cut off here because they were all deteriorated, but eventually there'll be a series of hoses that will connect this whole thing back together. The tracker bar has tubing which connects from every single hole on the tracker bar and goes down through and connects in to the stack below and causes the stack to operate. From behind, here we have the business side of this machine, and this is where you have the mechanical fingers which come down and play the notes, and then below that we have all of the pneumatics, little bellows which all operate the individual keys. There's 65 of these in this one. These are 65 note players which were first to come out. Later on they produced the 88 note ones. There were other versions other than 65, less common, different numbers of keys, from 50 some keys into 70 some keys, and then they finally settled pretty much on a standard of 88 because that encompassed an entire piano. And when the air pressure interacts on one of these bellows externally by a vacuum created on the inside, it collapses and thereby pushing the note down. The vacuum control of the pneumatics allows a great deal of expression from a soft push to a harder thump. So you can get the instrument to be very expressive and hence be very musical with it, extraordinarily so. Well, I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea how this machine works. We'll go play some music on it next.